What do you think would be the biggest specific difference between your presidency and a Biden presidency?
Well, we're obviously two different people, and we have a lot of shared life experiences. For example, the way we feel about our family and our parents and so on. But we're also different people, and I will bring those sensibilities to how I lead.
You can't make it up. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Micca, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks because y'all know when we have the Red Cup, we're about to spill some truth. Today, I want to get into The View, and Kamala was on The View earlier today. So I want to get right into it and see what she said, but I also want to do a 2-for-1. I also saw CNN and what they had to say. So I kind of want to mix in a couple of highlights with CNN, see what the liberal media had to say about it. Here we go.
Her busiest day of media since entering the race. Just minutes ago, she finished an interview with The View, and she brought with her a brand new policy pitch. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez has the details. Priscilla?
That's right, Dana. She wanted to appeal here to what's known as the sandwich generation, those adults who are caring for both their aging parents and children, and outlined a proposal directly targeting them and explaining how she would structure long-term care for senior citizens. Take a listen to what she said.
There are so many people in our country who are right in the middle. They're taking care of their kids and they're taking care of their aging parents. Mm-hmm. And it's just almost impossible to do it all, especially if they work. We're finding that so many are then having to leave their job, which means losing a source of income. What I am proposing is that basically what we will do is allow Medicare to cover in-home health care.
Now, she was also asked how she would do that, how she pay for it. She said that it would be expanding Medicare drug price negotiations as well as increasing drug discounts from manufacturers. But here's what's also interesting about this policy proposal. We know that Harris aides are trying to roll out more of these types of proposals to show a notable difference.
Right now, Medicare will send care like hospice care and things like that. So is she talking about just overall? See, this is the problem most of the time with Kamala, right? You don't know what she's talking about because she doesn't expound, right? She says something, most people think it sounds nice, but you never know what she's talking about because she doesn't expound ever. So now we're going to move into what Kamala said about what would be the difference between her and a Biden. Shout out to Sunny. That's what she said on The View. But anyway, what would be the difference between her and Joe Biden? Because her and Joe Biden said they are in sync, they're in step, that she's been in the room for every law that he's ever passed, that she's been instrumental in her input, that she has been doing each and everything with him. So there is no difference, right? So let's see what CNN had to say about it, and let's see what Kamala initially said. Here we go.
Kamala Harris was about how she differentiates herself. Is there any daylight effectively between what she would do and what the Biden-Harris administration did? Let's watch part of the answer.
We're obviously two different people, and we have a lot of shared life experiences. For example, the way we feel about our family and our parents and so on. But we're also different people, and I will bring those sensibilities to how I lead.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
I'm surprised, frankly, that she doesn't have more to say about this.
I'm not surprised that she doesn't have more to say about this because I keep telling everyone she is on board with the same policies as Joe Biden. But here it is. She's now saying it. So again, now everyone cannot say that she's just a vice president. No, she was also in sync and in step and in agreement and writing those laws down with Commander-in-Chief Joe Biden.
That she and her campaign know that this is one of the main questions that voters have about her. And one of the main things she's been trying to establish as part of her candidacy is the idea that she would represent a break from the past 4 years, and to not be able to come up with something to say in that moment. She continues to not be particularly nimble on her feet in a lot of these interviews. And this is a very obvious question that gave her an opportunity, frankly, to differentiate herself in a way that would have made news, that would have answered, I think, the curiosity of a lot of voters who want to know how she would lead differently. And she's not very specific in laying that out. And she can't point to a decision she would have made differently, which, in an electorate that thinks that doesn't like the way this administration has led, and that doesn't like the track that the country is on, that may not be a very satisfactory answer.
I mean,
And she's absolutely correct. This was, if I was a part of her administration, if I was a part of her campaign, I would say this is a missed opportunity to show people how you different from Bidenomics, because Bidenomics is not working. Bidenomics has not worked. And it would have been a great opportunity to separate yourself from those immigration policies. But as we saw on The View, she actually believes in those policies. But we're going to let CNN continue.
It's a delicate dance, because it's not as if she's coming in. It's not as if she just fell out of a coconut tree. She's been part of this administration as the vice president for 4 years now. She did later talk about the fact that she would put a Republican in her cabinet, which she first told me over the summer. And then she said, oh, that's something that's different. She sort of added it later.
Sure. This has been the central sort of point of tension when it comes to the Harris campaign. You are framing yourself as a change candidate, but you also represent incumbency. You were a vice president for the past 4 years, and often saying that you were the last one in the room as well when President Biden would make a decision. So it's tough to detach yourself from a president that, consistently in the polls has been unpopular with the public as well. When it comes to the policy platforms that the vice president has proposed, thus far, it's very much, it's similar with some differences in scale and also the way that she describes them. For example, the child tax credit, a bit, more sprawling as well. And when it comes to tone, you see some differences on foreign policy. I reported as well that at times she was saying behind closed doors in the White House that she didn't want to, that she didn't necessarily agree with the way President Biden described foreign policy as autocracy versus democracy, because some American allies, not all are democracies. She more so wanted to go with saying this was a matter of international law. She obviously, it's been reported, has also pushed to have more empathy for Palestinian civilians when it comes to Israel and Gaza. But thus far, the policy platforms are very similar. So this will continue to be the challenge. How do you represent yourself as a change candidate when your policy platform is so similar to the person in office?
And he said that, he said it very, eloquently. How do you separate yourself? How do you become the change candidate when you are doing the exact same thing as Joe Biden? And you're saying that you can't even find a difference. So how are we as American people supposed to find a difference in what you're saying and what you're doing, right? Bidenomics is commonomics. I'm convinced. Commonomics is Bidenomics and a Bidency. It's the same thing. So essentially, you would be voting for the same person, right? They selected Kamala. They moved Joe Biden's money over. So there you go. They moved them out of the way to put her as the candidate and gave her the nomination. So there you go. So, hey, give her the policies that, he had, that he was going to run on, and she doesn't have to come up with anything. There you go. Just move them over. Everything. She definitely is a change candidate, a change of candidate. That's about it. Let's go over real quick and look at something else from The View. Here we go.
But let's talk about something you would do different from Donald Trump. Right now, there is a monster storm barreling towards my state of Florida, a place that's still reeling from Hurricane Helene. Trump is lying, claiming that the Biden administration is intentionally withholding aid from the areas where Republicans live, and that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants. Ironically, that is something he did. in 2019. What do you think the effect of these lies are, and why is he doing this?
So before she answers, she's incorrect. Trump did not say that Biden is withholding funds. Trump said that FEMA, okay, FEMA is giving money to migrants, which they are. And it's coming from the same pot, which it is, because Jean-Pierre, that is the press secretary, she said in 2022 that the money for the migrants, which is still our money, our tax dollars, so it's the same fund. But it was coming out of FEMA, and it was coming from the shelter and food and the housing programs that FEMA has in emergency housing. That's why they're getting free housing. They're not paying for housing. They're getting free housing. That's why they're getting it. So it's a separation. What are you guys talking about? It's the same funds. It's our money. They shouldn't be getting any. And the people in North Carolina and Tennessee and Florida should be getting all of it.
It's profound, and it is the height of irresponsibility and frankly callousness.
Yeah.
So lives are literally at stake right now. I traveled to Georgia and to North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. In Georgia, I met a woman who just days earlier, her husband was killed in their home by a fallen tree.
Yeah.
Days later, I met with her and her daughter. You can imagine the pain, the shock that they are still in about what they experienced, what they witnessed.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about real human beings and their lives and them losing everything, everything. This woman lost her husband, her child lost her father. People are losing their home with no hope of ever being able to reconstruct or return. And the idea that somebody would be playing political games for the sake of himself, but this is so consistent about Donald Trump. He puts himself before the needs of others. I fear that he really lacks empathy on a very basic level to care about the suffering of other people and then understand the role of a leader is not to beat people down, it's to lift people up.
It's funny that she says that he's a liar, he's selfish. Well, guess what? Guess who said the same thing about Kamala? That good old state of Florida, the Governor DeSantis. Let's see what Governor DeSantis said this morning about Kamala Harris. Here we go.
I know Kamala Harris called you selfish. She said she's tried to contact you to talk to you about hurricane relief. And I know that you've said, I think you said she didn't try to contact you. We want to get your response. But first, listen to what she said. Well, we don't have the sound, but she said, you know, moment of crisis, if nothing else, should really be the moment that anyone calls himself a leader, says they're going to put politics aside and put the people first. People are in desperate need of support right now and playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations. These are the height of emergency situations. It's just utterly irresponsible and it's selfish and it's about political gamemanship. What's your response?
Well, I think she should look in the mirror. We've been on an emergency footing for 2 weeks straight, round the clock, 24/7. We've been working, my office, our Division of Emergency Management, helping people prepare for Hurricane Helene, helping effectuate rescues of people after Hurricane Helene, helping people pick up the pieces of their lives after Helene, and then have to also turn around and prepare for major impacts and maybe even more impacts from Hurricane Milton, be able to have rescue personnel ready to help people, and then, of course, help with the power restoration, all these things to do. So that's been my sole focus. My focus has not been on dealing with Kamala Harris. I saw the news report. I didn't know she tried to contact me, but I'd also say it's not about you, Kamala. Right. It's about the people of Florida. My focus is exactly where it should be. And I can tell you this, I've worked on these hurricanes under both President Trump and President Biden. Neither of them ever tried to politicize it. She has never called on any of the storms we've had since she's been vice president until apparently now. Why all of a sudden is she trying to parachute in and inject herself when she's never shown any interest in the past? We know it's because of politics. We know it's because of her campaign. I have zero time to entertain these political games. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to prepare and respond to what may be one of the most damaging storms in the history of the United States. So she says focusing on protecting your people is selfish. I think she ought to look in the mirror.
And right now,
so our final pour here. The governor got Miss Kamala together all the way. Okay. She called him selfish. She called him playing political games, but he said that woman in the last 4 years has never reached out to him, has never even said a thing to him. Okay. And now all of a sudden, she wants to, be in charge. She wants to do things. She wants to help. They've had plenty of storms over the years, and she has never reached out. That sounds like Kamala. That sounds like her campaign. That sounds like what they're doing right now. So I definitely believe him. But he's doing a phenomenal job because they've been giving out sandbags. They've been telling people to evacuate. They have been doing such a great job. And Kamala has been saying, oh, well, only listen to your local leaders. Ma'am, listen to the leaders of the state, Democrat or Republican. But, they like to play political, just like he said. And then CNN, right? CNN actually had two good reporters on that actually told the truth. Kamala is not separating herself from Biden, right? She's not separating herself from Joe Biden. So with this being said, what makes her different? Why would we want another Biden presidency? Right. And essentially, that's what we're getting. She's cherry picking the Biden policies that have worked or that seem to be popular. And she's throwing the other ones away. But in the meantime, she's just word salading and trying to put stuff together that sounds nice. But we know the 25K program, because I don't know if it's a credit, a deduction, or whatever, because it says up to 25K on the website. So what are we doing? Right. So when you look at everything in totality, The View is just another softball place where they can try to humanize her, even though she's sitting there with a $62,000 necklace on. But they're trying to humanize her. They're trying to get people to know her. But the only way people are going to know her is to actually have her state her policies, right? I'm very good at policies, right? I have a degree in accounting. I have a master's, right? And I can literally go take a CPA test. So I'm very intelligent. However, she impugns my intelligence when she gives policies that don't have any substance behind them. And when we try to go figure it out, we can't figure it out. And then she's being disingenuous, telling us that we don't want to figure it out. Ma'am, just tell us. Talk to us like we're 5, since we're all so dumb. Talk to us like we're 5. Tell us what you plan to do. But she's not going to do that because it's less than 30 days until the election. If she actually tells you what she's going to do, you guys will realize that it's just another Bidency. And right now, in the way the economy is, you're not going to want it. So she's going to keep hiding. And frankly, she's hiding in plain sight. So you guys drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's another Biden-C, or do you think she's going to do extremely well? Do you think she's hiding in plain sight, or do you think she's just doing all of these great interviews and she's coming off so well? I have another video coming up talking about her Call Me Daddy podcast. So check out my videos somewhere up in here. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk on the next one. It's your girl, Micca.